If you have said to yourself, I should write that, or if someone has said to you, you should write that, then I'm talking to you because you need to write. And that's why you're tuned in to yWrite. Hi, welcome to yWrite. I'm your host, Angela Grout. Thanks for tuning in to an episode where we find out what writers are doing, what kind of books authors are writing, and maybe while you're listening to the show, you're going to find out how you can write your book based on how they've written their book, because this show is all about educating you to tell your story and to get you to find out why others have told their story. So I'm here today in studio, and I have a guest that's from Springfield, Massachusetts, and he is the author of short stories, and he has done poetry online and in print, and he has been published in magazines. He is a fellow writer with me. We both belong to a group called Write Up Springfield, which has been featured on one of the earlier episodes here, which I will put in the links. He's also a member of the Florence Poet Society and the Springfield Writers Workshop. And, you know, as I have shared with you, if you're a writer, it's very important to get involved with your community just to kind of have that support. You know, you definitely need that. Writing is a lonely job. So my guest is Michael Allen LeDuc, and he has participated in the New England Public Media Storytelling Series, which is called the Valley Voice Slam, and he's been a finalist in there. So we're going to talk to him about that. And most importantly, we're going to talk to him about his children's book called PEPE'S PLACE, because this story is not only a memoir, but it is a story about inclusion, love, and celebration. So, you know, we have a lot to talk about today, and I have to tell you, I just want to bring him to the show, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him. This is Michael Allen LeDuc. Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I should have said before, I pronounce it LeDuc.
LeDuc, yes. Well, so we're going to jump ahead. You have a few names.
Right, and that's a new one to you.
Yes, because
it's new to me.
This book is written by Michael Allen Roche.
Right. That's my birth name.
Yes. Birth name is the author name for the book, Roche.
Correct.
Name, LeDuc is your married name.
No.
Oh, I always thought that was.
No, my married name is Sloan. LeDuc is a family name, and I had to take it in comedy because I do comedy. Yeah. I found another Michael Allen comedian on the West Coast, so I said, I better not keep doing that because I plan to be famous enough, so it'll be a problem in the future.
Right, you don't have two Michael Allens out there. I've seen you do comedy, and your comedy's fun, and you're doing a comedy tour right now called MAGA, which is not political.
No, I call it a tour, but it's mostly open mics.
Yeah, but you're doing a tour all around, everywhere around New England, the country, and I've seen you at many of them. And MAGA is because it's Michael Allen's
Goofing Around.
Goofing Around. I love it. And Michael Allen does goof around, and he's got some really good comedy bits.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Originally, when I left my 9-to-5 and was doing just comedy, I was going to do a tour called Burning Bridges because I wanted to talk about all my fellow co-workers and how horrible they were to me. But then after a little while being away from them, I don't want to give them any energy at all. Okay. That's why it became MAGA.
And that's why I was like, doing your introduction, I'm like, all right, I got to bring it on, because you have had I'm going to say lifelong career in human services. Sure. Like, you have a bachelor's degree in human services, you have a master's degree in counseling, and, in comedy, you joke about it, but it's true. You've worked 40 years in the mental health industry, in the mental health psych wards.
Right,
it's like, I've been in the psych ward for over 40 years. So, I mean, you definitely have a lot of material based on just what you've gone through. And from what I understand is, like, when we have these dramas and traumas that we've dealt with in our life or even in someone else's life, it affects us. So using humor is a great way to, deal with it, heal with it, and, just laugh because it's healthy.
I've always tried to use humor in anything I write, not just in jokes, but
Yeah.
Life is funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, you and I have done a couple we've seen each other at a few open mics.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking on my way here that this is the first time I've seen you in the AM.
In the morning. Yeah, because it's usually 7 o'clock at night.
Right. Because it's always after hours when you don't do. I mean, I know you from so many venues. Okay. So.
Yeah, we have run into each other so many times over the last, 5 years.
And I forget every
time. And each time I'm like, where do I know you from?
And you have a much better memory. No, but I met you doing storytelling, and you had a great story.
Oh, the Valley Voice Story Slam.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm doing it again.
Right. I think that's wonderful. I didn't get in, but I'll get back in again sometime.
You're into the 10, the 10s there.
Yeah, the last time I was in, I was actually an alternate, because they pick an alternate, and all 10 of them showed up, so I didn't get to be used. One of them came on crutches, and I was so tempted to push him down the stairs. But no, it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's run by like New England Public Media and the Academy of Music, and they do a really great job. Like you enter the contest and they whittle it down to 10, and then 10 storytellers go on stage, tell a story for 5 minutes. And like you said, they always have the 11th person in case someone doesn't show up or something. So yeah, I can imagine being the 11th person showing up going, I really hope I get to tell my story today.
Yeah, but I didn't want to wish any ill on anyone, so I was kidding about that.
Yeah, no.
I did tell him that at the time.
You're like, I'm going to push it down the stairs. Oh, geez. So I want to talk about your book. So you wrote a children's book.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And I'm going to kind of flip through it a little bit because there's so many visuals in here.
Okay.
And it's all a true story memoir.
It is.
It was inspired once you got your dog.
Well,
so you have a dog named Pepe.
Our dog named Pepe we had for 15 years, and the book actually went through several iterations before I published it. I kept thinking he has to tell his story, but the story kept growing, and he was getting older and older, and it didn't come out until after his death, actually. So it's a memoir of somebody that's gone.
Well, I mean, you have this, cute little Chihuahua dog, who is not just observing, but living life with you and your husband, and you're sharing so much diversity in this story because, in it, I mean, like I said, you're introducing, same-sex marriage. You're introducing fostering children and how you guys have fostered children. You introduce the character of who you've been fostering because you had someone with Down syndrome. So you've really brought in all this just beautiful, loving stories. I mean, it's...
Well, my life has been like that. I actually did family foster care for a couple adults with Down syndrome over the years. And we had an adolescent in our home for a while with some emotional issues, and he's still involved in our life, our son, or foster son.
Yeah.
He's 35, so... gosh, time goes by.
You're like, wait, he's 35. How old was he when you met? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And just the way that you share, is it Paco? Is that
who
you're talking about?
Because in the story, all of the names to
so
P for
Pepe talks about
alliteration.
Paco who comes into his life, and Paco, you're fostering him. He has Down syndrome. And
no, Paco didn't have the Down syndrome.
Sorry.
That's okay. Paco's the adolescent without the Down syndrome because he was the Latino adolescent, and he's gay.
Yeah.
And so there was so much diversity just in my life, and these books weren't available when I was young, and that's why I wanted to write it, to put it out there so people could see there are other families, and it doesn't have to look just like this family. It's okay if a family looks a little different, and if you know a family, you meet a family that's different, then this is kind of the same, deal.
I mean, showing, it's a real story of a blended family.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into politics, but since this came out, because it came out right at the beginning of the pandemic, and I haven't been able to push it at all. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, the same thing,
things have changed in the country.
We've talked about, the pandemic stopped us from even promoting our own books and things.
I mean, what's going on in Florida over the last few years. I mean, they can't say the word gay. It's like we're really going backwards in some ways. So I think this is needed in some areas, and people need to see that. So.
Well, any family, every family that has a pet has that unconditional love for their pet. And the pet has that unconditional love for them. So the fact that you have, Pepe, sharing his story, like observing things, and you're sharing, just like the regular normal things that normal families do, no matter what they look like. Playing ball in the yard, petting them, cuddling them, taking care of them, going for walks. Yeah. But then, having the conversations with, the elderly people, or with someone, who is coming into your door, into your life.
Right.
It's so eye-opening, and you're right, it's a very refreshing story because it just shows a normal life.
Yeah, well, outside of my work life, I've always had people in my life with disabilities, developmental disabilities, in wheelchairs. There's just people who are different, people who are deaf.
Yeah.
Or,
and you treat it very normally. That's what I'm saying.
Sure, yeah.
It's not like it's a story about someone with a disability.
No, it's a story about everybody.
It's a story about life and how you've handled your own life, and it just shows the resilience you have and the super kind heart that you have,
thanks.
So how long did it take? I know you said it took a while to write the book and it went through several revisions. Like, how did you come up with the story? Like, what was the day? Do you remember the epiphany where you're like, I'm going to write a story about my life for children?
Yeah, I'm not sure there really was one for that because, like I said, it went through so many different versions. But the final version got changed at the end by the editor's suggestions because I kind of left it floating what happened to Pepe, that he just disappeared. And she says they're going to want to know where he is and everything. And it's like a children's book, so I wanted to introduce it really peacefully and quietly, like he's no longer with us. Yeah. So I found a way to do that. I think it worked out pretty well. And that was a lesson the kids took away. They actually were more involved in the dying of Pepe, even though it barely touches on that, than any of the diversity. Yeah. The kids that I've talked to that have read it, I don't know.
Well, I mean, because it's a fact of life. I mean, we're all going to, children are going to get a pet and the pet is going to die before them. Yeah. So being able to handle that in a very peaceful way and show them how Pepe's life meant so much.
Right. Towards the end of the book, it just says he was in a lot of pain and now he's not anymore. And now he's dreaming of running and not being in pain and stuff.
Yeah, that's so nice. So how about the illustrations? Let's talk about the illustrations.
Sure, that's a good
because
thing.
You have a lot of illustrations. And I just recently had a graphic artist on who does comic books and stuff. So we talked about how difficult not only it is to get illustrations in, and even if you're scanning pictures and things like that, the layout and the format of doing these things is huge. Yeah. So how did that evolve?
It helps to be married to an award-winning photographer who did all of that. So I just did the words. I initially conceived of it being drawn, and then I thought, why don't we just use pictures but have them adapted to make it look a little different, like it's not just a picture. And I think he did a great job.
Yeah, he did a
great job, but I'm not happy with any of the pictures that I'm in just because of I don't like the way I look. But
well, you do look a little bit different, for sure.
Yeah, well, I was bloated, I had a little tummy, and I
don't. Is this one? This one's not you.
No.
Okay, I'm like trying to find one, but it's like just to take a photo.
Well, I didn't look too bad here. That's our son. And that's Pepe.
Yeah, there he is. Right
that's
there.
Our old house.
So I mean, it's very visual, very colorful, and I love how the words are big to see, like for a kid's book. Because when I did my children's book, like my thing was, especially if the teacher's reading, the kids, depending on the age, may just be looking at the pictures, but the fact that you can see the words and kind of run your finger underneath them. You say that,
it's funny because for years I did the read aloud every year with the Springfield school system. But they pick the books. They don't let you bring your own books. It would be nice if I could hawk my book.
Well, yeah, I did bring my own book. They let me. I said I would donate it to the school. So it was good because I did it, and I have a whole activity we do because the kids in my book, the day at the park, they play with a parachute at the park, so I bring the parachute into the classroom, and of course the kids see this big colorful rainbow parachute, they get so excited, and then the teachers are like, oh god, I can go on lunch break. Angela's got this. All right, so 40 years in mental health. That's a long time.
Well, it's 40 years in human services, and I broke it up a lot. When I was in college, I remember in undergrad, some professor had mentioned an offhand comment once about, if you don't want to burn out, change the population you work with periodically. And I think I just naturally did that, and I've worked with every population from 0 to 3 to elderly.
Wow.
And I did substitute teaching for every grade for 2 years, every single grade for four different towns. So that was just a fun thing to do while I was doing real estate for a few years. And trying to get
all the side hustles, the real estate, the comedy, the author. And
oh my gosh, I had a gift basket business. I always had side hustles and the foster care, doing something and something and something. And now, none of it.
Now you're retired.
Yeah, so I left
the
9 to 5.
You can just focus on your comedy.
I can just focus on the comedy, and I do want to write more because I really have neglected that since I started doing comedy. But
I find a lot of writers, a lot of authors are diverse in their in what they do, because I think we just have so much energy in us that we have to express it and be creative. So do it whether you're doing gift baskets or writing or sharing comedy. I mean, it's just naturally in us to I guess entertain in some way.
Well, there's just so many things I want to say and get out there into the universe from my perspective, even if it's just my memories of this is how I saw this happen in my life, and I have so many memoirs started and not finished. So
don't we all?
Someday I'll get around to
you will. I mean, we do go to the writing groups. You sit down, you take a little time to do a piece here and there, and like I say, I would treat all my writing projects like I did my weddings at the flower shop, where I have all, my bridal wedding file, and that one's in October, this is in August, but I can do a little bit here and there, but, I'm working with perishable products, so I couldn't get to them until then, and eventually you'll pick up those files.
You're more disciplined. My various mental illnesses get in the way of me sticking to something for long periods of time.
Well, I love what you said, like working in the mental field, in your field, like, and I think it relates to any field, like don't get burnt out. And however you word it, you said, someone had said to you, like, don't get burnt out, just change your population.
That was their suggestion. And it worked for me, even though I didn't plan it that way. I did work with a lot of different populations. I still got burnt out at the end.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think even for for writers, and I think that's why I am able to write so much, is because I change my genres. It's like I'm changing the population. Like, who's the audience for this? And I mean, it was something I was very adapt to at the flower shop, because, one day, one hour I'm doing funeral work, the next hour I'm doing a new baby, the next hour I'm planning a wedding. So it's like the population changed, and you don't get bored.
Mistresses.
Yeah, and all the mistresses all the misters that came in to, let me keep my secrets.
Sure.
My secrets.
Flora's secrets.
So, yeah, I mean, it's very important. I think writers out there should know, like, if you're starting to get burnt out from your work, like, just change the population a little bit. Think about a different audience that you're writing for, and, maybe that might open a door.
I hadn't even thought of how that carries over to my writing, because I do write, like, memoir and short stories and poetry. It depends on my mood, and I might write a paragraph of one and then move over to the other and go back and forth. So.
Well, and I mean, especially this children's book, I mean, it's for children, but again, it has different populations of audiences, because we said we're opening it up to the diversity and the just acceptance of interracial families, and that alone is a whole different population.
And that's what I thought that would come out of it. And yet everybody I talk to, that's not even mentioned in anything that they love. Like a 5-year-old learned how to say boulevard. She was learning to read, and that stuck with me, that she just loved the word boulevard.
Boulevard.
And it's mostly P words, because it's all alliteration with the Pepe. All their names are P's. But it was fun to see people taking different things from it other than what I thought they'd get.
So when you were writing this, did you come up with like an outline saying, I want to include the boulevard story. I want to include, the story of Paco.
Well, sure, because we lived on the boulevard when we first adopted Pepe, and then we had moved to a new neighborhood, so there was a big change in his life. He went from a small yard to a big yard. I mean, we still had the annual parties and everything, so some consistency in the same family, but it changed. Yeah. It changed his life, because the daily walks were all different, and then he started getting older and couldn't walk.
Yeah, and again, we're talking about like a dog adjusting to a new environment, but it's so translatable to children and to even people.
Right, all
because
of us adjust.
You take someone from one environment to another, and seeing how Pepe adjusted,
right,
and then seeing what stayed like regular in his schedule. Do you know what I mean? Even though he's in a different location, like he still had the same people, he still was eating the same food, he still got to look forward to the annual party every year.
I'm looking at the carryover now between the public speaking thing for the storytelling and the comedy and the poetry, and it's all interrelated.
They're all 100. I mean, it's all storytelling, and like I always share, and when I do the writers conference here for yWrite, I'm always saying, like, there's so many different ways to tell a story. And I don't want someone to think like, I'm not going to watch, why watch the yWrite show? I'm not going to write a story. Well, that's okay. Maybe come watch an episode where you're learning someone's telling a story in a story slam or in a comedy.
Right.
I mean, there's verbal storytelling, and then there's written storytelling. I mean, there's comic book storytelling. There's so many different genres to get whatever is inside you to share with someone. Because, if you feel like you need to share it, then 100% you need to share it, So I want to go back into comedy because you and I really been hanging out a lot with the comedy too, and I need humor in my life. When did you get involved in comedy? How long? I mean, you've been doing it a while.
A few years.
Yeah. What made you get involved in comedy and doing stand up and?
I mean, the final thing was I just said I just have to do it because I've been writing jokes for years and years and years, and I was obsessed over comedians and following them. Like I had 5,000 Facebook friends at one point back when I had a different account, and over 3,000 of them were comedians.
Wow.
So all over the country and all over the world, and that's all I did was follow comedians for years. That was like an obsession. And I was like, why am I not doing it? And I worked for a couple years as an usher at a comedy show. For every Friday and Saturday, I'm watching.
Oh, yeah, I totally forgot. I've seen you there. I remember.
Oh, that's right.
Going in one time, and I'm like, I know you.
Yeah, I spent 2 years working the door, and I met some famous comedians and a lot of locals, and I'm like, I'm as good as a lot of these people. I should be up there. So I finally, what happened was, I got introduced to Maverick. He was DJing.
Maverick Prasad, who's also been on the show.
Yeah, he was emceeing a retirement party for a friend of mine. That's how I met him. And then he told me about the open mic, so I said, I'll go check it out. And I went there with my friend with full intention of getting up there that night and doing it, and I chickened out. And after I had my name on a list, I went and said, I'm not going to do it this week. I'll come back next week. And he called me a bad name. And I went home and wrote a whole thing about that bad name and came back and did a really good skit the next week. So.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, and Maverick, to definitely thank him, like he had opened up the Workout Wednesdays where people could come and just use the open mic and just practice on their jokes, practice on delivery and skills, and get a little bit of feedback.
And I took advantage of that a lot. I really enjoy that crowd.
Yeah, no, it's been really great.
Not nice comedians.
So what do you think you're going to do for another book? Will you do another children's book, or do you think you're going to talk about your life again?
No, I had considered a Pepe series, but I think I'll get back into my actual memoirs.
Yeah.
I just have so many stories to tell.
Yeah. I mean, I find, trying to write memoir, especially like with what I've done with the flower shop, it's like, it's hard because you don't want to, share not secrets, but just conversations that you've had with people who are kind of confidential, and you're in the healthcare industry.
Right, yeah.
So,
I was a therapist, there's things I can't say.
Yeah, so, I mean, you definitely have to, like, kind of have that confidentiality. So, I mean, changing names and, things like that, at least give us the opportunity to share those stories, because some of them are very helpful for other people, and some of them are very hilarious. At least for me, some of them like, yeah, that's a pretty funny story. And I see how it's starting to shape some of my storytelling, because sometimes I can be so serious that it's, intense.
Right.
And, writing a murder mystery, things like that. Like, it's like, I want to have that humor and that little break where you can just breathe.
I know what you mean, because I often get hung up on the politics of the day, which are so divisive and make me so angry that I don't always find a way to insert the humor, and I get angry, and I'd much rather find
the humor.
Yeah, find the humor in it. So I'm working on that.
Well, I'm sure that, Pepe's looking down going, I'm so excited, I'm a celebrity. And, because of adopting this dog, it's allowed you to share how you've adopted so much into your life, and share with others how normal life is for everybody. Everybody's life looks different. And
I wouldn't call my life normal, but it's
your normal.
Life.
It's your normal.
That's true.
So it's a sneak peek into another kind of normal life that a lot of people don't see. And I do love one of your comedy jokes you have is when you talk about how long you've been married and why you've only been married for so long and stuff. And you're, it's funny because it's not a fact of how, being gay or having an interracial marriage. It's just life.
Right.
And you handle it very funnily. Funnily, did I just do a word? So your MAGA tour is going on for 2026.
That's Michael Allen Goofing Around.
Michael Allen's Goofing Around. And you just did a show in Three Rivers, Mass. That I know.
I was on a show in Three Rivers. I'm going to be doing another one next month.
Yeah, so you have pretty much shows every month this year, which is exciting. Where can people find out, like, where you're going to be, or, how can they get your book?
Well, the book's available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, or if you see me anywhere, call me over and I'll sell you a copy for cash, cheaper than I'll carry some.
He's got him in the trunk.
Yeah, I actually do. I have in my car T-shirts for sale that I've worn on stage, and you know, with funny sayings. And I have books, and I also sell used sporting goods.
All right.
So
I didn't know if we were going to get there, but yeah,
well.
you sell dirty balls.
I have a business. I started at the Brimfield Flea Market last year. That's Uncle Michael's Dirty Balls, and it's used golf balls because I have thousands of them. I used to pick up on my walks every day. I literally have like 7,000 golf balls. And then I wound up with basketballs and baseballs and all kinds. So that's to help supplement my comedy.
and you know, there's just no waste in your life. You know what I mean? Like, you're helping the environment by picking up all these balls, and now all of a sudden we create a business selling the balls, and you know, you're juggling a lot of balls between.
Well, you can speak about that. You're so involved in everything. I can't imagine how many things you do. I'm trying to slow down and just do one thing at a time.
I like to be busy. I like to be around fun people. I like to be around people I can encourage, you know, what their creativity, and that they'll encourage my creativity, because you know, it's hard as a writer, and you know, I'm sure you can attest to this, like when you're sitting down writing, it's isolated.
Sure.
You know, you're very isolated. You're isolated with your thoughts, you're isolated with your words, and then you can kind of get into that paralyzed zone, I think, like where you're like, what did I write, and who do I share this with? And you know, oh my God, they're gonna, you know, put me in an asylum if they read this.
Oh yeah,
you know?
I don't share most of the stuff I write.
Yeah, I mean, it can be very scary. So it's like being around people who encourage it and say, you know, well, what did you write? Share it with me. You know, like our writers group. I mean, it's great. We
Whether
sit down.
it's a dark poem at a writers group or a really dark comedy.
Yeah.
You know, it's scary to say this out loud. This is what's in my brain.
Yeah.
Oh no, you really thought that?
Yeah, and that's why I love writing communities and the open mics and going to these things, because when you hear what comes out of someone else's brain, you're like, oh, they're as weird as me.
Or maybe I'm not as bad.
Yeah, okay, this is normal. This is the thought process.
Other people are sick too.
Well, and that's why I started the show, because I was like, you know, why? People would say to me, why are you writing this? And I'm like, well, why did you write that? You know, like, because if someone shares with me their why, I get more comfortable sharing my why. Because, you know, it's like, why was I writing a murder mystery? You know, why did I write a story about breast cancer? You know, it's like, that was just on my heart, and it just started pouring out into the page. But then I was like, I have to share this. So
yeah, I've published essays about why I write, and they change over a couple of years. Like why I write today isn't why I wrote yesterday.
Yeah,
you know?
No, and especially when you're concentrating on something. So, all right, so Barnes and Noble, Amazon.
Oh yeah,
and where can they follow?
YouTube channel.
Yeah, tell us about our YouTube channel. I'm going to put all the links in.
Yeah, other than going to the link, I don't know how you get there. I try to post. I don't even know how to tell you to find me. I try to post new comedy sketches at least once a month. I don't always tape myself, but I try to get some, and I'm not that great at doing the technical stuff in the social media yet, because I don't know how to do clips, so I'm just bringing up my whole 5-7 minutes at a time. So.
Well, no, and you know, there's a way to kind of say, like, watch it at this time. You know, you want to hear this joke, watch it at 2:30. You know, let people know that. So, yeah, and I mean, you know, one of the groups that we're involved in, you know, we're sort of named it like Over the Limit Comics, because we're all over 50.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, it's like being older comics. We have kind of a little different humor scheme because we have more experience, I think.
I don't know the percentage, but I think most of the comedians I interact with are like so young.
Yes.
And they use different words and language, and I'm learning all the time.
No, I take notes. I'm taking notes. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I love Pepe. Like I'm so glad that he was able to share that story, because the story is really important, and I think a lot of people in general, not just kids, would benefit from reading this story and learning about, you know, the diversity, the diverse relationships, and the diverse families that are out there.
I was never able to do any promotions for it since it came out, so I really appreciate this.
Well, here we are promoting it, so go to Amazon and buy it.
Or Barnes & Noble, or get it from me, but just buy it.
All right, thank you. And I want to thank you, the listening audience, for always tuning in to this program, and for subscribing on YouTube, or if you're watching on Apple or Amazon or Spotify or wherever you are. I thank you for that, because, you know, I'm passionate about the show. I love talking to authors and writers, as I think you can tell. So I want you to come on the show one day, so I can't wait to find out what you're writing. So, this is the time of the program where I give you a writing prompt. So pick up your pen and paper, and when the show's over, set your timer for, hopefully you have at least 10 minutes just to write. I mean, it'll be amazing what you get done in 10 minutes. And today, because of Pepe, we're going to talk about writing a story through the eyes of your pet. And if you don't have a pet, imagine you have a pet. But, describe how your pet sees your world, how your pet sees the world, and have the pet describe what you're doing or how they respond to what you're doing, and maybe even share what they're thinking. So it's a new way to write. So write from the eyes of your pet, and hopefully one day you'll be able to share that with me. So thank you so much for tuning into yWrite. I'm your host, Angela Grout, and please check out our Facebook page and our YouTube station. And again, thank you to Studio 954. See you next time. Bye.